ravine. Isabail glanced at the fallen bodies and bound figures of her men, and words spilled from her lips before she could stop them. "You cannot mean to leave them like this." "I do." His terse response rumbled through his chest, vibrating against her back. "But large packs of wolves roam these hills." He said nothing, just urged the horse into a trot. The winding path up the mountain slope was narrow, but they took it at a relentless pace. Higher and higher they climbed, the horse picking its way around boulders and thick patches of heather. As they traversed a steep ledge, she got a clear view of the moonlit glen and the mist-shrouded castle that was her home. The folk in the stone fortress below were no doubt going about their usual evening chores, oblivious to the tragedy that had struck her party. How long would it be before the remaining guards were found? Helpless as they were, would they not starve to death, or be torn apart by wild animals? Isabail chewed her lip. One of the bearded outlaws riding alongside her caught her eye. "You fret for naught," he said. "The smoke will draw notice from the castle. Unless the Earl's soldiers are asleep at their posts, your guards will be home by morn." Her captor released a derisive snort. Isabail breathed a sigh of relief, but did not relax. She was struggling to retain her dignity. The upward climb made it extremely difficult to hold herself aloof from the warrior at her back. She did her best to maintain a stiff, ladylike poise, but every time the massive war-horse surged up a steep incline, she collided with her captor's very solid chest. It was bad enough that their hips were so intimately connected. She refused to give up any more of her self-respect than was necessary. But as the air thinned and grew colder, the steady warmth he exuded held more and more appeal. Determined to resist, she clutched her beaver cloak about her shoulders and buried her hands in the soft fur. Still, the hours in the saddle and the frigid air began to take their toll. She slipped farther and farther back in the saddle. Several times she stiffened abruptly when she realized her body had slumped wearily toward the wall of male flesh behind her. Fortunately, her captor did not seem to notice her lapses. His attention was focused on carving a trail through the bleak wilderness that was the Highlands in January. Perhaps fearing pursuit, he kept their pace as hard and as fast as the terrain would allow. Isabail was just beginning to wonder how far he intended to drag her from her home when he drew the massive destrier to a halt and barked out an order to his men. "Make camp here." As he leapt down, causing icy air to swirl around her in his absence, she took stock of his chosen campsite. She considered herself born of much hardier stock than her English cousins, but even to her seasoned Scots eye, the spot looked anything but hospitable. Barren rock, blanketed by a thin layer of ice and snow. The only break to the north wind was a large boulder and, in the distance, a tall standing stone erected by the ancient Picts. But the lack of obvious comfort did not dismay his men. They helped Isabail and Myrna to dismount, then immediately set about making a fire. Once the peat bricks were generating some heat, they tethered the horses and passed around meager portions of bread and cheese. The meal was too late to be supper and too early to be breakfast, but it tasted wonderful just the same. Isabail and Myrna were left alone as the men went about their tasks. The ground was icy beneath their boots, discouraging movement, so they simply stood and ate. Myrna's thoughts had not eased on the long ride up the mountain. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "They mean to rape and kill us," she whispered. "How can you know that?" asked Isabail. "They've not made any such threats." "You need only look at the dark face on that one." She pointed to the towering shape of the leader as he unsaddled the horses, "to know that we are doomed." Isabail's stomach nodded. Myrna's assessment had merit. Everything about the man was terrifying, from the daunting width of his shoulders to the grim set of his chiseled jaw. And her maid was correct. The scowl on his face did not bode well. But to admit the bend of her thoughts to Myrna would stir the maid's fears. "The only sane reason for them to accost a noblewoman is to ransom her," she said firmly.